Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dans. We're about 1/4 of the way through the session. Thankfully, over the last week, we haven't had any new COVID cases surface at the Roundhouse. That was a major concern, and the potential for disruption, surfaced last week. But it looks like things have settled down. There is quite a bit of work that's happening in committee, and we're also looking at having some bills actually may pass each chamber as early as next week. But Dan, looking at what's happened over the last 7 days or so, what do you think have been the big stories?
Yeah, I think we've really seen kind of committees really hitting their stride, getting to work on some important bills. It's that point in the session where we're not seeing a lot of floor votes yet. That'll probably be coming, as you mentioned, in the next few weeks. But I think this week we saw a few big bills kind of aimed at relief from the pandemic, moving through their final committees, and those could be hitting the floors next week. Leadership has said they'd like to send those up to the governor by middle of this month. So those are kind of poised to move quickly. Also, kind of a very emotional abortion bill is moving fast. That one could also be on both the House and Senate floors soon. So those are a couple of the bills we've been tracking. Also, we saw 4 different cannabis legalization bills filed this week. So that debate will probably take longer to kind of find out the differences between those bills and whether something can kind of move forward and reach the governor's desk.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the cannabis legislation, although it hasn't moved very far, so at this point in the session, is that we have both Republican and Democratic proposals. They have different approaches. Sometimes, something that happens on a topic like this is the bill sponsors will get together and work on perhaps one proposal that takes ideas from all the others. But I think we're probably going to see a lot of debate about all different kinds of approaches to cannabis legalization. A few years ago, there was a bill that moved pretty far that would have involved having the state operate stores, similar to kind of a Utah model for alcohol. I don't know whether that's going to catch on in advance this time or not, but any thoughts on sort of the outlook for cannabis so far?
Yeah, I think the backers of the idea are pretty confident that given some changes in the legislature and in the Senate in particular, that they can get a bill passed this year. Like you mentioned, they always say, the details are going to be plenty of debate, plenty of scrutiny, exactly how that happens, what the tax rate is, how they would kind of distribute revenue that's raised from it. So, a lot of those important policy issues to hash out. So it's certainly not a slam dunk, and a lot of work needs to go on it. And when we'll see kind of what ideas emerge on that, certainly at this point, looking at neighboring states like Colorado and Arizona that recently approved a cannabis ballot measure, I think those could kind of offer some possible guidelines. But we'll see how it's done in New Mexico. And I think too, certainly going forward, we're getting a little more used to this online format, but there is still some dispute about the rules. And you wrote this week even a little bit about a legal case that House Republicans have filed, and we may be headed to the Supreme Court in the next few weeks.
Yeah, so on the House side, the House and the Senate each have different rules for conducting the session. The House rules are a little more permissive in terms of where you can participate. House members can cast votes from their home or anywhere really through the remote participation provisions that they have. Republicans are arguing that the rules violate a constitutional requirement that the legislature meet at the seat of government, which is Santa Fe or the Capitol building. They also argue that the online format deprives the public of adequate opportunities to participate. So this was a petition filed at the Supreme Court. The court did not take any immediate action. It declined to sort of step in immediately and change the rules or order the rules to be suspended or halted. But they asked for an expedited response from House Speaker Brian Egoff and the administrative arm of the legislature, the staff essentially. So it's clear that the Supreme Court does have some interest in taking a look at this issue, and we'll have to see how it goes. The Republicans have raised the possibility that work passed by the legislature might be invalid if these rules are in place. So it certainly could have big consequences, although it's a little early to say whether the suit will be successful. The Supreme Court itself has had some remote hearings, so that might be a sign that they're okay with these kinds of measures in a pandemic. But frankly, we just don't know how they're going to rule. In terms of looking ahead, Dan, we're kind of wrapping up the third week. We've got 6 weeks left to go. What do you see on tap for next week?
Yeah, as we mentioned, I think there will be, both the House and the Senate are planning on holding 4 sessions next week and probably actually voting on some of these bills. So that could be, something to watch. Certainly, there's a lot of other important legislation also in the mix, dealing with paid sick leave. They're starting to put a budget together, analyzing the impact of some recent kind of federal climate change orders that could really impact New Mexico. So sometimes, wish we had even more Dans than we do. But we're trying to, keep up with all of that. I think next week we'll be getting a little closer to the bill introduction deadline as well. So start to see, which bills are really moving and on the fast track, and which might be, take a little longer to be sorted out, and which maybe don't move forward at all.
Yeah, it sounds like the proposal to repeal the criminal abortion statute has reached the floor in both chambers, I believe. So that's something that could happen soon. There are a lot of pandemic relief bills that are an early priority. These could include tax rebates for lower income workers, changes to liquor laws to allow restaurants to deliver alcoholic drinks or beer or wine with food. There could be some bills that start crossing over between chambers and maybe even reach the governor's desk pretty soon. So it could be a pretty interesting week coming up. As always, we're really thankful for anyone who follows our work, for people who subscribe, click on our stories, follow us on social media. We really appreciate the chance to be, one of the few people in the building, kind of being your eyes and ears as well as we can in terms of, physical presence inside the Capitol. So thank you for your help. And Dan, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, I would second that motion from the other Dan. And thanks for following our coverage. And just keep in mind, a lot can and will happen over the next 40 some days.